Happy Valentine's Day. If you're looking for a last minute idea to hand out or just to have for your sake, by the way, Valentines make lovely wedding shower cards or anniversary cards. So they're just nice to have in general. I'm going to show you 10 easy, quick little Valentine cards. And if you're in the mood, just go ahead and knock a bunch out, whatever you would like, or just enjoy the ones that I'm going to show you. So for the first one of 10, I'm going to suggest Valentine balloons. And there's two ways, probably more, but there's two ways to set them up. One is to buy a card, a blank card, and then paint on it. And there are several cards that are made that are very nice. Strathmore, I'm not a huge fan of their watercolor paper, but I am a huge fan of their watercolor kits. They have the cards, they have matching envelopes. You can grab them at any art store online or on Amazon. If you're not going to buy the kits, you can just cut them out, measure, usually 4 by 6 or 7 by 11 or whatever you want to do. Either measure them out so that they can also be folded, or just put them all on one and then cut them out with your paper cutter and glue them on top of a card. If you want, even stick a little something like a wedge of some scratch paper, glue it in well, and make them kind of have a 3D effect. But here's some of my heart balloons. You could add sparkles. What I did here is I cut them out, and when I cut them out and glued them onto just a messy background, a messy watercolor background, wet on wet. And then what I did is I put the balloons on top and then drew with some markers just the strings on them. Then I went ahead and put a little bit of Elmer's glue and sprinkled on some sparkles just to kind of look festive. Here is a different style with it. And here's one where I just, the stickers that you can get from children. You can put those on top of any of them as well. I also sprayed with my little sprayer just to make some interesting little bubbly looks in the background. So that's number 1. The next thing I want to show you, and by the way, as you can see, I glued string on these, so you can make it more 3D if you would like. The next thing I want to talk about is negative space hearts. And what you first do is you take your paper and you create, I'm just going to use a size 8. You create whatever colors you think. I'm just using a 9 by 12, but of course it would be a small part of this. So let's say I'm going to add water, drop in some colors. Here's good old alizarin red, what's not to love. You could either pop in some colors like this. Let's do a little lemon yellow. We don't want to blend when they're colors that are either complementary on the color wheel because they'll get muddy and brown, or if they're colors that will make a third color. It's okay if you want to make a third color, but otherwise just kind of leave it the way you want. Do whatever you want with it. Now, when that's dry, you're going to go ahead and pencil in. And the cool thing with watercolor, of course, is you can erase the pencil marks if you do them light and you do them on top of a very dry, bone dry background. So this isn't dry, but just to show you the idea, I'd make a heart. I don't like this side. I might erase it, pretend with my kneaded eraser. And then I'm going to fill around it so that the heart stands out. What's inside the heart are the colors that I first put down that are dry. The negative space around it can be anything that you want. And I'll give you a fun little tip. There's really no such thing as white watercolor. It's a chalky substance. So Mix white watercolor. You know, it comes in kits, even though we never use it from the mosaic. But take that white watercolor, mix it with something. I mixed it a little bit here with yellow ochre, mix it a little bit more opaque, and cover up everything but the heart shape that you put in. And then in my case, I glued on an extra little heart right here. So that's the second one, is negative space. And I'll show you a few examples of those just to give you some creative ideas. I did I taped it off. I did the entire rectangle in reds and yellows and blues and greens. And then I penciled in a variety of hearts, some of them under each other, different sizes, different shapes. One thing cool with hearts is it doesn't matter. They don't have to be a perfect heart shape. It looks kind of creative when they don't, in fact. And then I went around, same technique. I used white watercolor, and I don't even remember what this color, it looks like it might be burnt umber or something for a beige. And then only the ones that I left uncovered showed through. And then in this case, I also took a micron style pen and outlined them so they really popped. And I turned this into a card. On my cards, a lot of times I'll say made with love, or I'll tape off the back and do a pretty little design on the background as well, and then write whatever I want in. And this one happened to be for my husband back in 2018. So there's that. I'll show you one more example of negative space. And that would be here. So I did more of an orangey background here, and pinks and yellows, and then and oranges. And then the negative space was more burnt umber, burnt sienna. I think I had alizarin crimson, and then I did the ink aspect as well. So that's the same general idea with them. And that is my second one. My third idea for you are bleeding hearts. And you could write some cute little words with that as well. And the bleeding heart idea, I'm still on my number 8, trying to keep a good point to it, kind of. If you're not great with drawing or painting hearts, do each side together. So don't try to go zoom, zoom at the same time. Do one side first and then the other side. And I probably need a smaller brush, but I'm just going to continue on with my 8. And there is the first one of my hearts. I'm going to go in, while this is plenty wet, I'm going to go to another paint color. And this one is opera pink. I do the dry part away from it first, and then I finish it onto the heart and just let it bleed through. Put a little tail on it, put it a cute little shape. Let me go ahead and go to a purple color. And once again, whatever heart I'm doing, I do it outside first, and then I touch it and let it bleed through however it's going to go. And you can just continue on as you go in all different shapes and sizes, and just fill up a paper, make a pretty little design with it. And if you want, you can have them touch and bleed, or you can even do them in a row, filling up the paper. An example of bleeding hearts that I've done already is just this fussing around. And I even dragged some by mistake, and I actually don't mind that. Happy mistake. You can splatter on it, you could cut it out, you can fill up the whole card. And that is the idea of bleeding hearts. The next one I want to talk about is doilies, using these little doilies. I just get a bunch of them. This one I used twice, and I'll just hold on to it and use it again, no doubt. But if you put a doily over any kind of paper, either the side of it. You can get them heart-shaped. If you have a doily and you take one of your little water sprayers, I hope you have these. If not, run and get some. They're really reasonably priced. You can buy several from Amazon. They're perfume atomizers, and they're really handy. This one, I just dipped my brush in alizarin crimson, and I put a little purple in there too. I think it was, what was it? Either imperial purple maybe, or a quin violet, and mixed it up. And you put a little doily over something, over the paper. I like to spray so it goes on the outside of it too. One thing kind of fun to do is if you have a card that you've either made or purchased, put it over lapping. So here are a couple that I made for you to see, and they overlap. So the back side has a little edge of it also. And then I went ahead and sprayed, I don't know if the camera picks up on it, but I sprayed it lightly outside of it all the way through. And then the front looks like this. And there's some smeary spots that'll appear. And those are even cute and artsy, or you could write on that if you want, or do some hearts and then write inside. So here's an example. Here's just a plain paper that I did one. Here is one that I think almost looks like it still is on, don't you think? Now, if you don't have a sprayer, you can tap over the doily with your brush. But just to be honest with you, this one I was giving a demonstration live to someone, and I tapped all around here, and you can see I did it a little too bleedy, a little too wet. So keep that in mind if you do it. But isn't it pretty? You can fold it over, and the back still has a little bit. So the doily idea is perfect for many things, Valentine's Day, but also everything from, you know, birthdays to anniversaries to whatever. They're just so pretty. You need to let it dry 100%. Don't do what I'm doing. It may or may not work because it's so wet. You have to let it dry. But I did want you to get the idea. So do what I say and not what I do. So there's my little doily idea. And that's number 4. Moving right ahead is number 5. And that is teddy bears. Teddy bears are just too cute, too easy. I'm going to switch to a size 4. And I'll show you how I do the teddy bears. Remember what I told you, I'm just using quin, what is this? Rose madder quin, that's what I dragged into. Remember how I told you to make hearts, just do one side at a time. So there is my first heart, there's my first side, and there's my other side. If it's not a perfect match, it's not a big deal, and I really mean that. You don't want to sweat the small stuff. That's what keeps it looking homemade and pretty. So there's my heart, and I would usually let that dry completely, but since we are moving through very quickly today, I'm going to go ahead and show you the idea. Here is one big old paw and another. Use your heart as a guide of where you do your paws. So there is one paw and a second paw. And here is a hand paw as opposed to the feet paw. By the way, I teach live Zoom classes. If any of you would like to have a live interactive Zoom class, please look me up. I also just started on YouTube and Patreon. And my Patreon address is patreon.com/Cindra. Cindra. So look me up if you're in the mood. I'm constantly putting new things on there. And then my interactive classes, some of the tiers include some of the Zoom classes also. So it's kind of fun. Now, if you want to, you can kind of lift a little bit the paws. Try not to go into my wet Valentine. It's not easy doing it between not letting it dry and just painting the wet. But I wanted you to see this right away in case you wanted any last minute fun ideas. So there you go. There's his little cute ears. And I want to connect things. If I can't because it's going to bleed, I'll at least show you and then you can do it. So it would be there, his little feetsies. And it would be in the neck as well, okay? You just want to connect it so it looks like he's holding a stuffed animal. I might lift a little here or put that little pink in. Isn't the worst idea, is it? And I might also lift his little snout if I can. Again, let it dry a little bit and you'll have a super easy time. And there's his little face. And you could do, just to give you ideas in finishing it, here's the finished product. But you could, so I won't waste too much time, but you could do little paws, burnt umber. You could do a little expression. I love the eyebrows, his little nose. You know, it would be fun is to make the nose a heart shape, wouldn't it? Maybe a little red one or even black, but in a heart shape. And then his little mouth. So that is the idea. Here's my messy one because I tried to do it fast for you, but I'm glad I have this on here for you to see what it really looks when you put the details on. Next is number 6. And I just love this idea. So I hope you will too. I'm going to show you about writing words around a heart. And this is me doing background splotchiness through the whole section, kind of like what you saw, except then I use saran wrap or cling wrap, whatever you call it. And then I drew and then filled in a heart. I drew in with my little brush, tiny little other hearts. And I could put something on here to make it like a little candy, but instead, I'm going to write something on it in my own handwriting. And I'll say, I love when we snuggle in front of the TV together. And if it doesn't work out perfect, do a couple X's, but see how it almost looks like it's a lacy background. And you could do several hearts and write several special things. I love when you bring me coffee in the morning. I love when we go to walk for walks together, go on walks together. There's so many sweet things you can do with that concept. I'm throwing this one in as an extra. It's kind of like bleeding candy canes. I also have this, but now I want to show you just the idea of little trees made out of, and I don't think I'll do it because I don't want this to get too long, but all you do is with watercolor pencils or pen, you just make little trees together. And if I were actually doing this with you, I would do it with a watercolor pencil probably in this case. And in fact, even fixing these lines as it dries, you could do a watercolor pencil, or you could carefully just paint in as it dries. But you're just going to make a couple little trees, and then you're just going to put, instead of leaves, you're going to put little hearts on that. And you can do them on all different colors and sizes. And you could also put little stickers on it. So that's kind of a cute idea too. The next one I want to show you is the idea of stationery. So stationery, you can either do just a big old mess like this, which you probably recognize is just the saran wrap look. And then on the inside, write what you want. You could put it on one side only, or in the other. You could then do a heart over it. or stick some things on it. But there's nothing not to love with this kind of look. If you don't do it quite as heavy as this, it'll even look like abstract roses or flowers. This to me is really a pretty one for Valentine's, don't you think? And again, it's just a ran wrap. I just plopped on some splotchy things. I included some metallic paint as well. And there it is, all ready to do things. I also, in this case, did the inside too, but I tried to do it much lighter so that I could write or paint on top of that. So stationery is a lovely idea. And whatever number we're up to, I wanted to say you could create your own stationery anytime. I see I have a little blotch here. I use some round paper that you can buy already round. Here's the brand, Chroma Blends Circular Watercolor. It's 140 pound and it's cold press. It's nice watercolor paper. The only negative thing I'll say is it's a little hard to get it off the block. But I managed to, and it was worth the effort. And I did a few little flowers. I call these my dot flowers. I also love painting roses. And if you haven't seen it yet, I did make a quick little tutorial on these kind of dot flowers. And it's also on YouTube, and my Patreon site, patreon.com/Cindra, also has a couple of classes about that type of thing, as well as my roses. I'm looking for my roses just to show you, if I can find it quick. And if not, that's okay too. But I do have some roses that are fun to do. And either way, if you take a paper, either a standard size, or in this case, I just kind of did it around the top of a round one. And then you could write whatever you want on it and turn it into a love stationery. That would be a lot of fun as well. And also, speaking of flowers, I reduced them and printed some to show you with the roses. And there's the roses I was talking about that I love painting and showing you how to do them. I have something on YouTube, and I also have it on my Patreon site. But if you first make the outline, any size you want, make the outline of a heart. And you'll notice some of these hearts are odd shaped, and some of these hearts are more, this is kind of a perfect normal shaped heart. This one's kind of chubby. This is longer. This one is whatever. They all look cute together, and they all would look pretty on a Valentine card. So that's the idea too, is just heart-shaped flowers as well. And I think I covered it all, and I wanted to go ahead and get out of here so you're not going, this is getting too long. So I hope you enjoyed it. By the way, with the teddy bear, if you wanted to, you could turn it into a cat. Here is my idea in a messy way of showing how to write around it, negative space. Happy Valentine's Day. Whether you have a loved one with you or a memory of a loved one, whether you are a teacher spreading love to your children, or a parent, or you have a parent that you need to visit today or call, or if you have friends that are like family to you, whomever you have, I hope you can be kind today and spread the love. And I hope some of these ideas inspired you. I know that I sure had fun. Bye.